And we're helping you break down the current law in California with Myra Fleischer, who's a family law attorney. Thank you for coming on to Primetime.
Thank you for having me, Taylor.
So can you simplify this for all of us, the viewers and I?
We can simplify it a little bit. What happened was in 2008, Proposition 8 passed in California, and it was taken up to appeals court, and now it's being taken to the Supreme Court to basically have the Supreme Court make a decision whether or not the California Constitution, which Proposition 8 changed, is valid. So the Supreme Court is the ultimate decision maker of the law in the United States, and the Supreme Court is going to make that decision. What the proponents of Proposition 8 want to decide is to have the court decide on the narrow issue of whether or not the people have decided whether or not California can change the Constitution. Okay?
Yeah.
It's a little complicated.
This is very complicated.
But what everybody is looking at is what the Supreme Court is going to do. If the Supreme Court rules on more than just that, whether or not marriage can be between a man and a woman, or a woman and a woman, and a man and a man, that's what everybody's watching. Can the Supreme Court go beyond just the scope of what the proposition is in California? So that's what everybody is watching, because they're hearing everything, and they have the discretion.
And this will affect other states as well. And
if they make a federal decision, so they are taking away what people are worried about, who are on the one side, is are they taking away state sovereignty? Okay, and making a federal decision. What it has been equated to by some people is Roe v. Wade, where the federal government said the states can't decide whether or not a woman can have an abortion. The federal government made that decision. So whether you're on which side, okay, if you're a proponent of same-sex marriage, you're saying, well, the government can decide. If you're against same-sex marriage, you're saying that California or any state should be able to make that decision on its own.
Do you have an opinion in this matter?
I do have an opinion.
What is your opinion?
I'll tell you my legal opinion first. Okay?
Tell me your legal, then personal.
My legal opinion is that at some point, somehow, this has got to be fixed. Because from a legal standpoint, this is a terrible mess. Nobody is going to be able to stop same-sex marriages or same-sex relationships from happening. And there is a difference between one state having it and another state not having it, because there is the federal government who, tax season. I'll give you a perfect example. We're in tax season. If you're a same-sex couple in California, you can file jointly if you're a domestic partner, but you can't federally. Okay?
Yeah.
There are so many things from a legal standpoint that don't make sense. Okay?
So you think it should be like a blanket law across every state to keep things simple and clean?
I think it needs to be simplified. It's not something that's going to go away from a legal standpoint. We're supposedly have equal protection under the law, under our Constitution. So I don't see why we shouldn't have equal protection for everyone.
So with that, if the same-sex people get married and they get divorced, well, hello, you're going to have to pay child support and alimony and everything else, because it's not all pros. There are some cons that go along with that.
You know what? Same-sex couples break up just as much as heterosexual
But it's
couples.
not as dramatic now because it's simple, right? It's clean.
No, it's more complicated.
You think?
Because let's say a same-sex couple has been together for a long time, has had a domestic partnership for a long time. If the same-sex couple is entitled, one spouse, to spousal support, in federal law, that spousal support can be included as income so that the receiving spouse has to pay taxes on it. The paying spouse gets to deduct it. The same-sex couple can't do that, because they are not married under the eyes of the law on their federal tax return. They can't do that. So you have to be very creative.
And what if one of say this couple has been together forever and one dies, the other one doesn't automatically inherit the wealth of...
No. Now my personal opinion is, you know what, this is 2013, okay? This has been, people have been gay since thousands of years. Why can we not catch up with the world? We have in vitro fertilization. We have all kinds of technology in the world, but we can't recognize something that people, I believe, have no control over. So that's my personal opinion, but I look to that as something that I can believe in. Everybody can believe in whatever they want, but I look at also what the legal ramifications are here, and that's bigger to me.
Do you think the people that are against this, or against same-sex marriages, it's more for religious basis?
I don't know if it's religious or personal beliefs, moral beliefs, and I believe everybody is entitled to that. But you can keep that. You know, if you can't get married,
you got to separate church and state.
Exactly.
And that's the thing. That line gets blurred. So who are we to say?
You could have a civil union and not have a religious union if your church or your synagogue or your temple does not recognize a same-sex relationship. You just have a civil union. That's fine.
It's funny, you know, wasn't how long ago, like a blink of an eye, when they wouldn't let a white man marry a black woman or vice versa, right?
1967.
Yeah, that's not that long ago.
Not long ago.
So it's kind of archaic, but it's interesting to see where this goes. I can't see how we wouldn't change because we're so progressive. So
we are, and I think about the children. Because I would want my children to grow up in a household where I could say, if I was in a same-sex relationship, I would have the right to say who makes decisions over my children. If it's a female-female couple, and one woman has
I say that's
the babies,
a power couple.
I would say that's a power couple
I would like a wife, and I'm straight.
I know.
I would think I could run for office if I had a wife.
Exactly. But if one woman has the babies, in a heterosexual couple who are married, it's presumed that those children are children of the marriage. That is not the way it is in a same-sex couple. It has to be an adoption. So if that adoption doesn't happen and one of those children gets sick and it's not the woman who had the babies, you can't make a decision for your child if it's life or death.
So I do feel like you've got to separate state and religion. You just have to stick with that. So again, if the religion doesn't agree with same-sex, then then don't have people belong to that religion that want to get married. And that's fine. They get to choose, just like a all-men's club or an all-female club, right?
Exactly.
It's
you don't have to join it if they don't want you there.
But we just read a story today about a state, a governor who wants to outlaw abortion completely if they can detect a fetal heartbeat. How do you feel about that?
How do I feel about that personally? Nobody should be messing with anybody else's uterus. That's my personal opinion.
It's not your uterus.
Right. No. Well, you know what? That's a very personal decision, and it would depend on that person's choice. Who's going to make the decision to hold somebody down and listen for the fetal heartbeat if that woman wants to make a decision to have that abortion?
See, that is even more complicated than same-sex marriage.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because if a woman finds out that she's pregnant and never has heard the fetal heartbeat, who's going to hold her down to see if the fetal heartbeat is detected?
It gets messy.
Very messy.
I'll keep my opinions about that to myself.